Welcome to PeaceTV. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock met her Chinese counterpart Qin Gang today during her visit to China, during a joint press conference in Beijing. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock told her Chinese counterpart Qin Gang that China should exert influence on Russia to end the war in Ukraine, and said that unilateral change of the status quo over the Taiwan Strait by means of force is unacceptable, Baerbock said. Chinese President Xi Jinping's recent visit to Moscow, where he met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, clearly indicates that no country has bigger influence over Russia than China, in the same fashion as how China mediated between Iran and Saudi Arabia. We want China to use that influence to urge Russia to end its war in Ukraine, Baerbock stated. Baerbock is on her maiden visit to China from Thursday to Saturday. On Taiwan, Baerbock also stated that destabilization of the Taiwan Strait would have terrible consequences for the global economy, and that Germany is concerned about the rising tensions over the Taiwan Strait. Military conflicts over the Taiwan Strait would be a horrible scenario and one that is unacceptable to Europe. We call on all parties to not escalate tensions in the region, and we will do everything we can to maintain peace and stability in the region, Baerbock said. We will continue to uphold the One China policy, but differences must be resolved through peaceful means. Europe will not accept unilateral change of status quo through the use of force, Baerbock added. In response, Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang reiterated Beijing's position of promoting peace talks and not providing lethal and dual-use weapons to all relevant parties in the Ukraine war. Qin said, Taiwan independence and peace cannot coexist together, and added that if a country says it respects the One China principle, it should resolutely oppose Taiwan independence. Qin also called for cooperation and not competition between China and Germany since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There's worry that China may one day treat Taiwan in the same way. China's ruling Communist Party has never controlled Taiwan, but claims the self-ruled island democracy is its own, and has repeatedly refused to rule out taking it by force since the war in Ukraine. The European Union has taken a harsh stance against Russia and its close ally, China, as their military and trade relations run deep, after France and Germany respectively went to China for diplomacy. But the core problem was to want China to intervene in Ukraine and its Taiwan Island issue. However, almost nothing was achieved because with China's position is neutral on Russia and Ukraine, and Taiwan is part of China. The EU has a new move, unable to go to China because of COVID. EU Foreign Policy Chief tweeted, bashing China. It will be extremely difficult for the European Union (EU) to maintain a relationship of trust with China if Beijing does not help search for a political solution to end Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The bloc's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, said Friday, I would like to say this in all friendship. It will be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the European Union to maintain a relationship of trust with China if China does not contribute to the search for a political solution based on Russia's withdrawal from the Ukrainian territory, Borrell said in published remarks he was due to deliver during a visit to Beijing which was cancelled after he tested positive for COVID-19. Neutrality in the face of the violation of international law is not credible. We do not ask anyone to align with our own position. We simply ask to admit and recognize that in this case, there was a serious violation of international law, the statement added. Borrell also called on Chinese President Xi Jinping to speak to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and provide more substantial humanitarian aid to the battered Ukrainian people. Borrell said relations between the EU and China have deteriorated in recent years due to a growing number of irritants, in particular China's position on the war in Ukraine and EU sanctions against Chinese officials over the reported mass detention and persecution of Uyghurs in Xinjiang. At the same time, we have remained committed to engagement and cooperation and recognize China's crucial role in solving global and regional problems. We do not fear China's rise, however. We know that the history of tomorrow's world will also depend on how China uses its power. Borrell wrote, "The ongoing trade imbalance between the EU and China was also addressed at length." The statement said the bloc's total amount of our trade reached nearly 850 billion euros, $941 billion in 2022. But Borrell noted that these exchanges were increasingly unbalanced at a disadvantage to the EU. Our trade deficit has reached a record of 400 billion euros, $443 billion, or 2.3% of our GDP. If imbalances are not corrected, we have to react. The statement said, this move of the EU head shows the weakness in foreign affairs, saying that even the EU cannot solve the problem in Ukraine. This is understandable because the EU always provides Ukraine with lethal weapons to fight Russia with the desire that Russia loses and Russia weakens. So forth. Russia's words of the EU have almost no weight. And so the EU turns to China to hope to influence Russia, actually. The problem here is due to the EU's policies, especially those in the EU. NATO behind is the US. Want this war to last and want Russia to weaken. If you want peace, why drag Ukraine to your side? Why protest when Ukraine wants neutrality in exchange for peace? Such manipulative political moves to expand one's influence and deter other countries only hurt the people of Ukraine. A beautiful country and friendly people that should now be enjoying peace. But now what? People are displaced. The country is in ruins. Soldiers make meaningless sacrifices for NATO and American manipulativism.